I returned home early and found my parents packing up my belongings to help me move into a tiny studio, while my brother and his pregnant wife took over my big house. "You don't need that much space," they laughed. So I called the police. My name is Katie, and I'm 27. For 5 years, I'd poured my soul into my marketing career, climbing the ladder at a prestigious Chicago firm. Just last month, I'd been promoted, a senior specialist with my own team, my own clients. I was thriving professionally. But my home life? That was a whole different story. You see, I still lived in my parents' guest house, about 30 minutes outside Chicago. It started as a temporary thing after college to pay off loans, but somehow, 3 months turned into 5 years. I paid rent, handled my own bills, tried to maintain my independence. My parents, Robert and Eleanor, always painted it as the ideal setup. Why waste money on rent? Mom would say, besides, we love having you close. My younger sister, Madison, had been smarter. The moment she graduated, she got an apartment downtown. I envied her clean break, but we stayed close, texting daily, meeting for dinner. Looking back, the signs of my parents' controlling nature, especially my mom's, were always there. In high school, she helped me apply to colleges by eliminating any she deemed too far. In college, she'd call my roommates to check on my study habits. Even now, she had opinions on everything from my hair to my dating life. Dad was more laid back, but always deferred to Mom, creating a united front that felt impossible to crack. About a month ago, I started hinting at moving out during our Sunday family dinners. Just browsing, nothing concrete. "I think it might be time to find something in the city, closer to work," I'd said. Mom's fork froze midair. "The commute never bothered you before." I tried to explain, nearly 2 hours in the car every day, wanting my own space at 28. "You have your own space in the guest house," Dad offered, gently. I thought I'd appease them, but Mom peppered me with questions throughout dessert: neighborhoods, dangers, maintenance. Each question felt like a tiny hook, trying to snag my resolve. Last week, I flew to Chicago for a big client presentation. We nailed it, signed the contract on the spot, and my boss told me to take Thursday and Friday off as a reward. I decided to surprise my family by coming home early. Maybe we could celebrate, and I could casually bring up how seriously I was looking at apartments. I even had a showing scheduled for Saturday in a neighborhood I loved. But as I pulled into our long driveway Wednesday evening, I saw my Aunt Sylvia's car. And then, the boxes. Labeled in Mom's neat handwriting, "Katie's Kitchen, Katie's Books." A cold dread settled in my stomach. Through the window, I saw movement, hushed voices. Why were they packing my things? Without telling me? I pushed open the front door, the familiar creak announcing my arrival. The activity froze. Mom, clipboard in hand, Dad and Aunt Sylvia with half-filled boxes. "Katie!" Mom exclaimed, her surprise quickly shifting to an unconvincing smile. "You're home early." I stepped inside, my wheeled suitcase bumping behind me. My old childhood room, the guest room, was completely dismantled. Bookshelves empty, drawers pulled out, photos packed. But even more disturbing? Boxes labeled with items from the guest house, my actual living space. "What's going on?" I whispered. Mom beamed. "Oh, Katie, darling, we found you the perfect apartment. Isn't that wonderful?" Dad, at least, had the decency to look uncomfortable. Aunt Sylvia suddenly became fascinated with a folded sweater. "You what?" I managed, still frozen. Mom bustled over, thrusting papers at me. "It's a darling studio in Oakbrook, just 5 minutes from Sylvia's place. We've already put down the deposit, and they're holding it for you to move in this weekend." I took the papers mechanically. A lease agreement with my name on it, a lease I had never seen, let alone signed. Attached was a photo, a tiny studio, maybe 500 square feet, a kitchenette in the corner, barely enough room for a bed. This weekend. My brain struggled to catch up. But I didn't ask you to find me an apartment. "Well, you mentioned wanting your own place," Dad offered weakly. "Your mother thought it would be nice to help you get started." "Help me?" I looked around at the boxes, the dismantled room. This wasn't help. This was an invasion. They'd packed all my things without asking, signed a lease for an apartment I'd never seen. Mom waved away my concerns. Oh, Katie, don't be dramatic. We know you've been busy. Everything's taken care of. The studio is perfect for a single young woman, and you'll be close to family. Sylvia can check in on you. Check in on me? At 27, with a successful career, she still thought I needed someone to check in on me. I don't want to live in Oak Brook, I said, my voice growing firmer. If I move, I want to be closer to downtown, near work. Mom scoffed. Downtown? Those apartments are ridiculously overpriced, and the neighborhoods aren't safe. This studio is lovely. That's not your decision to make, I snapped, anger finally bubbling over. I can choose where I want to live. Katie, Mom said, that condescending tone I knew so well. We're just trying to help. You've been talking about moving out, but you haven't actually done anything about it. I've been looking at places. I countered. I have a showing scheduled for Saturday. Well, now you don't need it, she replied brightly. Everything's arranged. The movers are coming Saturday morning. Sylvia and I have already measured for curtains. I walked further into the room, horror growing. On the dining table were stacks of my personal items, photo albums, journals, even a box of letters from a college boyfriend I'd kept in my bedside drawer. How did you get all this stuff from the guest house? I demanded, my voice rising. That's my private space. Dad, at least, looked embarrassed. Your mother thought it would be more efficient to start packing while you were away. You went through my things? All of my things. The violation felt physical, a punch to the gut. How did you even get in? We have keys, Catherine, Mom said, as if I was being unreasonable. It's our property, after all. I pay rent. I shot back. I have tenant rights. You can't just enter whenever you want. Don't be ridiculous, Mom dismissed. We're family, not some landlord-tenant arrangement. Then I saw it. My diary from last year, among the packed items. A journal where I'd poured out my most private thoughts, including my frustrations about their controlling behavior. The thought of my mother reading those pages made me feel physically ill. Stop, I said firmly. Stop packing. This ends now. Katie, Mom began, her tone turning defensive. After everything we've done for you, Eleanor, Dad interrupted, putting a hand on her arm. Maybe we should have discussed this with Katie first. There's nothing to discuss. Mom insisted. The deposit's paid, the lease is signed. This is happening. Aunt Sylvia, silent until now, quietly set down the sweater. I think I should give you all some space, she murmured, but kept packing even as she said it. I moved to the table, snatched my journal, clutching it protectively. Did you read this? I asked Mom, my voice shaking. Her slight hesitation told me everything. How could you? I whispered. I needed to understand what you've been thinking, she justified. You've been so secretive. Lately. Always on your computer, barely talking during Sunday dinners. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. My computer. Did you go through that too? Another telling hesitation. You did, didn't you? That's how you knew I was looking at apartments. You invaded my privacy completely. I saw those awful downtown listings you were looking at, Mom admitted, without a hint of remorse. Ridiculously overpriced and in such questionable areas. I knew we had to step in before you made a terrible mistake. The depth of the violation was still sinking in. They hadn't just packed my things, they'd systematically invaded every private aspect of my life to maintain control. How did you even know I'd be away until Friday? I asked suddenly. I never told you my exact schedule. Dad looked away, but Mom lifted her chin defiantly. I called your office as your emergency contact. That new assistant of yours was very helpful. You posed as me? I gasped. That's completely inappropriate. It was necessary, Mom insisted. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had enough time to arrange everything. I looked at my father, hoping for an ally, but he just shrugged helplessly. Your mother thought it would be a nice surprise, he offered weakly. The patterns of my entire life flashed before me. College applications mysteriously lost for schools more than 3 hours away. A scholarship opportunity Mom forgot to tell me about until after the deadline. Boyfriends subtly criticized until I doubted the relationships myself. Even my career choice had been influenced by their comments about marketing's stability versus my original interest in photography. I reached for my phone to call Madison, needing someone to talk to, only to be sent straight to voicemail. Perfect timing. Catherine, Mom said, using my full name, her ultimatum voice. I know you're upset, but you're overreacting. This is for your own good. My own good. I repeated incredulously. How is violating my privacy and making decisions about my life without my input for my own good? You're not thinking clearly about this, she continued. The studio is perfect for a single woman. You don't need all that space you were looking at downtown. That's not for you to decide. Well, someone needs to make sensible decisions here, she snapped, her helpful facade finally cracking. You clearly aren't ready to make these choices on your own. The implication that at 27, with a successful career, I was somehow incapable of choosing my own apartment, was the final straw. Put everything back, I demanded. Now. I'm not moving into that studio. It's too late, Mom replied coldly. The deposit is non-refundable. That's your problem, not mine, I said, surprising myself with my firmness. I never asked you to do any of this. After all we've done for you, she began, her voice rising. It was the beginning of a familiar script, the guilt trip, the reminder of all I owed them, the implication that independence equaled ingratitude. But for the first time, I wasn't going to play my part. What exactly have you done for me that gives you the right to make my decisions? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Because from where I'm standing, this looks like control, not love. Mom's eyes widened in shock. This wasn't how our arguments usually went. Typically, I'd get emotional, she'd stay cool, and I'd eventually give in. Control, she repeated incredulously. We've given you everything. A place to live, support for your career, I pay rent. I interrupted. I've been financially independent since graduation. And as for my career, you tried to talk me out of taking my current job because it wasn't the safe choice you wanted. We only want what's best for you, Dad interjected, trying to defuse the situation. No, I said firmly. You want what you think is best for me, which isn't the same thing. Mom's face hardened. This apartment is happening, Catherine. We've already given notice on the guest house. The words hit me like a physical blow. You what? We gave notice, she repeated. Your cousins Thomas and Amber need a place to stay while their house is being renovated. They're moving into the guest house next month. Without asking me? I was nearly shouting now. That's my home. You can't just decide I'm moving out. It's our property, Mom said coldly. And it's time you had your own place anyway. The studio is perfect. It's half the size I need. I protested. And in Oakbrook? I'd be commuting an hour and a half each way. You could look for a job closer to home, Mom suggested, as if changing the career I'd built for 5 years was a simple matter. This is insane, I muttered, running my hands through my hair. Completely insane. I turned to my father, desperately hoping for support. Dad, you can't think this is okay. He looked uncomfortable but shrugged. Your mother has put a lot of thought into this, Katie. The studio really is nice, and the neighborhood is safe. That's not the point. I was struggling to make them understand. The point is that this is my life, my decision. I walked over to one of the open boxes, peered inside, and my heart dropped. Where's my grandmother's jewelry box? It had been a special gift from Dad's mother before she passed away. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. Mom? I prompted, a new fear taking hold. Where is it? Well, Mom began, not quite meeting my eyes. Since you weren't using it much, I thought Amber might appreciate having it. You gave away my grandmother's jewelry box? I was incredulous. Without asking me? You have so many things you never use, Mom justified. We thought it made sense to pass some items on to family who could use them. What else? I demanded, looking around frantically. What else did you give away? Neither of them answered immediately, which told me everything. The antique desk from the guest house? I asked, remembering the piece I'd refinished myself in college. Dad looked away. My photography equipment from college? Mom stiffened. You haven't used that in years. Thomas's daughter is interested in photography, so you just gave it away, I finished, my voice breaking. Do I own anything in your eyes, or is everything just yours to distribute as you see fit? Don't be dramatic, Mom snapped. They're just things. They're my things. I shouted, no longer caring about composure. Things that matter to me, that have meaning and memories attached. Aunt Sylvia finally spoke up. Eleanor, maybe you should have asked Katie first. Stay out of this, Sylvia. Mom said sharply. This is between us and our daughter. Tears welled up, but I fought them back. This is beyond control, I said quietly. This is a complete disregard for me as a person. We're your parents. Mom insisted. Everything we do is because we love you. This isn't love, I replied. This is ownership. The room fell silent. Even my mother seemed momentarily stunned. Dad was the first to speak. Katie, that's not fair. Not fair. I laughed bitterly. You know what's not fair? Coming home to find my life being packed up without my permission. Having my privacy violated, finding out my home has been given away, and my possessions distributed to relatives. I moved toward the door, needing to escape before I completely broke down. Where are you going? Mom demanded. Away from here, I said simply. I can't be in this house right now. Catherine Elizabeth Parker. Don't you dare walk out that door. Mom called after me, that full name ultimatum voice. That had worked so well when I was 16. I paused at the threshold, turned, and looked her directly in the eyes. I'm 27 years old, Mom. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. With that, I walked out, ignoring her calls. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. Tears blurred my vision as I backed out of the driveway, no clear destination in mind. I ended up at Jefferson Park, where I used to go as a teenager when I needed to think. Sitting on a bench by the pond, I let the tears flow freely. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls from both parents, which I ignored. After about 20 minutes, a text from Madison finally came through. What happened? Mom's freaking out. I didn't have the energy to explain, so I simply replied, parents packed up my stuff to move me without asking. Gave away my things. I left. Can I call you later? Her response was immediate. OMG, yes, call whenever. Are you okay? No, I wasn't okay. Not even close. As the sun began to set, I sat alone, feeling utterly betrayed. The worst part wasn't the apartment or the invasion of privacy. It was the crushing realization that my parents didn't see me as an autonomous adult. In their eyes, I was still a child to be managed, directed. The thought was devastating. More devastating realizations kept hitting me. My mother hadn't just read my journal, she'd gone through my computer, my private correspondence, my personal documents. And the things they'd given away, my grandmother's jewelry box, not just a box, but a treasure chest of her letters, small mementos, a pressed flower. The antique desk, a labor of love during a difficult time in college, representing my independence. My photography equipment, the professional-grade camera and lenses I'd saved for, a cherished path not taken. All of it gone. These weren't just possessions. They were pieces of my identity, tangible representations of who I was. And my parents had distributed them like unwanted items at a garage sale. Another text from Dad. Katie, please come home. Your mother is very upset. We need to talk about this. Of course, Mom was upset. Never mind that they had violated my privacy, given away my possessions, tried to relocate me. The priority was still her feelings. Then, a new text from Madison. Just talk to Mom. Holy sh****, Katie. Are you okay? Where are you? Do you need me to come get you? I texted back immediately. I'm at Jefferson Park. Just sitting here trying to process everything. Stay there, she replied. I'm coming to get you. 20 minutes. For the first time, a small measure of relief. While waiting, I tried to think rationally. I couldn't go back to the guest house tonight. A hotel was an option, but the thought of being alone made the hollow feeling in my chest expand painfully. Madison arrived exactly 20 minutes later. She rushed over, enveloped me in a tight hug. I am so sorry, she whispered as I broke down again. Mom told me what happened, but I know her version is complete bullsh***. She led me to her car. You're staying with me tonight. No arguments. On the drive, I poured out the whole story. The lease, the invasion, the redistributed possessions, the guest house given away. Madison's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. They've always been controlling, but this is next level, she said. Did you know they've been planning this for months? Months? I turned to her, shocked. How do you know that? She winced. Mom mentioned at Easter that they were thinking of letting Thomas and Amber use the guest house. I assumed they'd discussed it with you. Easter was 2 months ago, I said numbly. They've been planning to kick me out for 2 months without saying a word. I'm so sorry, Katie. I should have asked if you knew. We rode in silence for a few minutes before she spoke again. You know you can stay with me as long as you need, right? The couch pulls out, and it's actually pretty comfortable. Thanks, I said gratefully. I just need a few days to figure things out. But as we arrived at her small apartment, another horrible thought struck me. My work clothes, my laptop, everything I need is still at the house. Madison's expression hardened. We'll deal with that tomorrow. Right now, you need to rest. That night, lying on Madison's pull-out couch, sleep eluded me. Every moment of the confrontation, every violation, every dismissal of my feelings replayed. By dawn, I'd come to a devastating conclusion. I couldn't continue having a relationship with my parents as it had been. Something fundamental had to change. The next morning, Madison called in sick to help me. You need clothes, your work laptop, and essential documents, she said practically. Everything else can wait. I can't believe I have to find an apartment immediately, I said, my head pounding. The housing market is so competitive. Madison hesitated. My lease is up in 2 months. What if we looked for a 2-bedroom together? The offer was tempting, but something resisted. I think I need to do this on my own, I said slowly. I've been letting other people make decisions for me for too long. She nodded, understanding. Then we find you your own place. But my offer stands if you change your mind. My phone buzzed with another text from Mom. Catherine, this has gone on long enough. Your father and I expect you home today. The movers are coming tomorrow morning for your things. This studio apartment is non-negotiable at this point. The audacity was breathtaking. Even now, she was still trying to dictate terms. I showed Madison the text. Non-negotiable? Is she serious? Completely, I said grimly. That's how it's always been. Their way or nothing. And what happens if you just refuse to move into the studio? I considered it. I guess they're stuck with a lease they can't use. But they've already given away the guest house, so I'd still be homeless. Madison squeezed my hand. Not homeless. You have me. Just then, my phone rang. It wasn't my parents, but Alicia Ramirez, a colleague who had become a good friend. Katie, she exclaimed. I've been trying to reach you. Congratulations on landing the Peterson account. The whole office is buzzing. The Peterson account. In all the chaos, I'd completely forgotten my professional triumph. Thanks, Alicia, I said, trying to inject enthusiasm. She paused. Are you okay? You sound strange. Before I could stop myself, the whole story came pouring out. Alicia listened without interrupting, making only occasional sounds of disbelief or outrage. When I finished, she didn't hesitate. You're coming to stay with me, she declared. I have a 2-bedroom apartment, and my roommate moved out last month. I've been looking for someone to take the 2nd bedroom anyway. Alicia, I can't impose. It's not imposing if I'm offering, she cut me off. The room is sitting empty. Rent would be reasonable. Whatever you were paying for the guest house is fine. No strings attached. Are you sure? I asked, hope rising for the first time since this nightmare began. Absolutely positive. And the best part? I live in River North, exactly the neighborhood you were looking at for apartments. You'd be 15 minutes from the office. The offer was almost too good to be true. A room in a neighborhood I loved, with someone I trusted, available immediately. Can I think about it? I asked, needing to process this unexpected lifeline. Of course, Alicia said. The offer stands. Whenever you're ready. After hanging up, I looked at Madison, who'd heard my side of the conversation. That sounds perfect, she said, smiling. And it would give you time to find your own place without pressure. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt a glimmer of hope. I had options, real options, that I could choose for myself. But first, I needed to face my parents and reclaim what was mine. As Madison and I sat planning, a strange calm settled over me. This crisis, as painful as it was, had brought something into crystal clear focus. The pattern of control had been present my entire life, and I had been enabling it. I remembered my work mentor, Janet, telling me, Setting boundaries isn't just about what you say no to. It's about defining who you are and what you'll accept in your life. The hardest boundaries to set are with the people who don't believe you have the right to have any. I'd thought she was talking about clients. Now, I realized how profoundly her words applied to my family. "This is my breaking point," I said aloud to Madison. "I can't keep living like this." Madison nodded, understanding. "What do you want to do?" "I'm going to take Alicia up on her offer," I decided. "It's the perfect solution for now. But first, I need to get my essential belongings from the house." "I'll come with you," Madison said firmly. "You shouldn't face them alone." I shook my head. "I need to do this myself. But would you mind being my backup? Maybe waiting in the car." "Absolutely," she agreed. "And I'm calling Alicia to join us. The more support you have, the better." Alicia readily agreed. "Safety in numbers," she said. "Plus, I have an SUV with plenty of space for your things." Before leaving, I took time to prepare mentally. This confrontation would be different. No emotion, no defensiveness, no seeking their approval. I would be clear, firm, and focused on my own needs. I also took practical steps, called my bank to ensure my parents weren't on any accounts, emailed my boss, explaining I needed emergency personal leave, promising to be back Monday, and made an appointment with a therapist Alicia recommended. I knew I'd need professional help to process this trauma. By mid-afternoon, we were ready. Madison drove us to that familiar suburban street, parking across from the house. Alicia arrived minutes later, giving me a fierce hug. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell, a symbolic act. I still had my key, but I wanted to establish that this was no longer my home. Mom opened the door, her expression morphing from hope to weariness when she saw Madison and Alicia flanking me. "Catherine," she said stiffly, "finally decided to come home, I see. And you've brought friends." "Support," I corrected. "May we come in? I need to collect some of my belongings." She stepped aside reluctantly. Dad appeared from the kitchen, looking relieved and apprehensive. "Katie," he said, moving toward me for a hug that I instinctively stepped away from. "We've been so worried." "I let you know I was safe," I said evenly. "I stayed with Madison last night." The living room still contained stacks of boxes, though fewer than yesterday. I noticed several were missing. "Where are the rest of my things?" I asked. Mom lifted her chin. "We continued packing while you were having your episode. Some boxes are already at the studio." The casual dismissal of my legitimate distress as an episode might have derailed me in the past, but today, I refused to be sidetracked. "I'm not moving into the studio," I said clearly. "I found my own place." "Don't be ridiculous," Mom scoffed. "The lease is signed. The deposit is paid. It's a done deal." "Not by me," I pointed out. "I never signed anything. Never agreed to this arrangement. Whatever financial commitments you've made are yours to deal with." Dad stepped forward, ever the mediator. "Katie, be reasonable. Your mother has gone to a lot of trouble." "That's exactly the problem," I interrupted, surprising him. "This was never her decision to make. None of this was." Taking a deep breath, I delivered the speech I had rehearsed. "For my entire life, you've made decisions for me without my input or consent. You've justified it as love, as protection, as knowing what's best for me. But real love means respecting someone's autonomy and their right to make their own choices, even choices you might not agree with." Mom opened her mouth to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "I'm not finished. Yesterday, you crossed a line. You invaded my privacy, gave away my possessions, and tried to relocate me without my consent. That's not love or help. It's control. And I won't accept it anymore." The room fell silent. Madison stood by the door, a mixture of pride and concern on her face. Alicia remained near me, a steady, supportive presence. "I've accepted a room in Alicia's apartment in River North," I continued. "It's my decision, and it's not up for debate. I'll be moving in today." "River North?" Mom sputtered. "That neighborhood is my choice," I finished firmly. "Just like my career is my choice. My possessions are mine to keep or give away, and my privacy is mine to protect." Dad looked at me with new eyes, as if seeing me clearly for the first time. "Katie, I had no idea you felt this way." "I've tried to tell you many times," I said, softening slightly. But you always deferred to Mom, and she always dismissed my feelings as overreactions or immaturity. Mom's face had turned stony. After everything we've done for you, she began, falling back on her standard refrain. I'm grateful for the good things you've done, I acknowledged. But those things don't give you the right to control my life. I'm 27 years old. I have a successful career, financial independence, and the ability to make my own decisions. Clearly not good decisions, Mom snapped. If you think moving to River North is sensible, that's for me to determine, I replied evenly. Not you. I turned to the boxes. I'm taking my essential items today: clothes, work materials, important documents, and sentimental possessions. I'll arrange to get the rest later. And what about the studio apartment? Mom demanded. We're on the hook for that lease. As I said, that's your responsibility. You signed it, not me. For perhaps the first time in my life, I saw my mother speechless. Dad looked between us, clearly torn. Robert, Mom finally said, turning to him for support. Tell her she can't do this. Dad hesitated, then surprised us all. Actually, Eleanor, I think she can. And maybe she should. Mom stared at him in shock. What are you saying? I'm saying we went too far, he admitted quietly. We shouldn't have gone through her things, signed a lease without her knowledge, or given away her possessions. If I had objected more strongly yesterday, maybe we wouldn't be here now. It was the closest my father had ever come to standing up to my mother, and the timing couldn't have been more crucial for me. Mom's face flushed with anger. This is absurd. We were helping her. No, Mom, I said gently. You were controlling me. There's a difference. With Madison and Alicia's help, I methodically sorted through the boxes, taking only what truly mattered: work clothes, laptop, documents, and the sentimental items that hadn't yet been given away. Mom alternated between angry outbursts, tearful guilt trips, and attempts to bargain. At least look at the studio before deciding, she pleaded. It really is lovely. That's not the point, I explained, for what felt like the 100th time. The point is that you made this decision. Without me. Dad hovered uncomfortably, occasionally helping carry boxes to Alicia's SUV. At one point, he pulled me aside. Katie, I want you to know I'm sorry. A real one. Not just the quick one I gave last week. I stopped sorting and gave him my full attention. I've always known your mother can be overwhelming, he continued. But I told myself it was just her way of showing love. I never stepped in when I should have. Never stood up for you when her control became unhealthy. Why not? I asked, not accusingly, but genuinely wanting to understand. He sighed heavily. Part of it was the path of least resistance. Your mother is a force of nature when she sets her mind on something. But if I'm honest, I also failed to see how much it was hurting you. I thought you were like me, able to let her controlling tendencies roll off your back. It never rolled off my back, Dad, I said gently. I just got better at hiding how much it hurt. He nodded, looking genuinely pained. I see that now. And I'm trying to do better. I've suggested we both see a counselor to work on healthier relationships with you and Madison. This was so unexpected I momentarily couldn't speak. Mom agreed to counseling? I finally managed. Not yet, he admitted. But I'm not giving up. Seeing you walk out last week, it was a wake-up call. I don't want to lose my daughter because we couldn't respect her as an adult. Impulsively, I hugged him. The first real contact we'd had since this whole ordeal began. Thank you, Dad. That means a lot. By early afternoon, we had retrieved everything that mattered to me, including a trip to the studio apartment to collect the few boxes that had been delivered there. I was surprised by how small and cramped the studio actually was, confirming my instinct that it would have been completely wrong for me. As we finished loading the last items, Dad handed me a small wooden box I didn't recognize. What's this? I asked, opening it to find my grandmother's jewelry box inside, along with all its contents. I tracked it down from Amber, he explained. Told her there had been a misunderstanding. The desk and photography equipment are being returned, too. I can have them delivered to your new place when they arrive. Tears sprang to my eyes. Thank you, I whispered, clutching the box. As we prepared to leave, Dad asked hesitantly, would it be okay if I called you sometime? Just to check in. I'd like that, I said sincerely. Maybe we could have lunch next week. Just us. His face brightened. I'd like that very much. We had just finished loading when another car pulled into the driveway. My mother emerged, her expression darkening as she took in the scene. What's going on here? She demanded, approaching rapidly. Robert, what have you allowed? Before Dad could respond, I stepped forward, keeping my voice calm and even. Hello, Mom. I came to collect the rest of my things. Without even calling first, she said indignantly. This is still our home, Catherine. I know, I acknowledged. And I appreciate Dad helping us today. She looked at the loaded vehicles, her expression a mixture of anger and something that might have been fear. So, this is really happening. You're really leaving. I already left last week, I reminded her gently. Today, I'm just collecting my belongings. She turned to Dad accusingly. And you helped her behind my back? Dad straightened his shoulders in a way I'd rarely seen. It's her property, Eleanor. She has every right to it. Mom's eyes widened at this uncharacteristic defiance. She turned back to me, her voice taking on the wounded tone I knew so well. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Sneaking in while I'm out, turning your father against me. In the past, this approach would have worked. I would have felt guilty, defensive, eager to smooth things over. But therapy, even just one session, had helped me see this dynamic more clearly. Mom, this isn't about repayment or taking sides, I said calmly. It's about me making my own decisions as an adult. I love you, but I need you to respect my boundaries. Boundaries, she repeated, as if it were a foreign word. We're your parents. Yes, you are. And I'll always be your daughter, but I'm also an adult with the right to make my own choices. She looked at me as if seeing a stranger. Perhaps, in a way, she was. The daughter she'd always been able to control was gone, replaced by someone who could stand firmly in her own power. We're leaving now, I said, gesturing to my friends who had been watching tensely. Dad has my new address if you'd like to send mail. And when you're ready to talk, really talk, without trying to control the outcome, I'd be happy to hear from you. With that, I walked to Madison's car and got in, watching through the window as Dad put his arm around Mom's rigid shoulders. As we drove away, I felt no triumph or vindication, only a mix of sadness and hope. The relationship wasn't over, but it was fundamentally changed. And that change, painful as it was, had been necessary for my own well-being. You okay? Madison asked as we merged onto the highway. I considered the question carefully. Not completely, I said honestly. But I will be. 1 month after moving into Alicia's apartment, I stood in my new room, marveling at the transformation. The space had become truly mine in a way my room in the guest house never had. I'd painted one wall a bold teal color that Mom would have hated, arranged my books by genre instead of size and color as she'd always insisted. It looks amazing in here, Alicia commented. I barely recognize it. Thanks for letting me make changes, I said gratefully. And for everything else. Living with Alicia had been a revelation. She respected my privacy, never entered my room without permission, and treated me as an equal partner. These shouldn't have been remarkable things, but after a lifetime of subtle control, they felt revolutionary. Work had become a sanctuary, too. My success with the Peterson account had led to increased responsibilities. My boss, Janet, had been incredibly supportive. Establishing healthy boundaries is one of the hardest things we do as adults, she told me, especially with parents who don't want those boundaries. I'm proud of you for taking that step. Perhaps the most transformative part of this month had been my weekly therapy sessions. Dr. Rivera helped me understand that my parents' controlling behavior wasn't really about me at all. It was about their own insecurities and inability to adapt to their children growing up. Your mother's identity has been wrapped up in being needed, Dr. Rivera explained. When you demonstrate independence, she experiences it as rejection. That doesn't make her behavior okay, but understanding it might help you respond more effectively. Dad and I had established a new routine of weekly lunch dates. At first, they'd been awkward, but gradually, we were building a relationship based on mutual respect rather than parental authority. Mom was struggling more with the new reality. She'd called several times, Each conversation a mixture of guilt trips, passive-aggressive comments, and occasional genuine questions. I maintained firm boundaries, ending calls when she became manipulative and expressing appreciation when she made efforts to respect my autonomy. Madison had become my strongest ally. Mom actually asked me yesterday what kind of apartment you have. She reported during one visit, not to criticize, but because she wants to send you a housewarming gift. Really? I was skeptical, but hopeful. Really? I think seeing Dad stand up to her was a shock to her system. She's realizing she might lose both of us if she doesn't adjust. By the 3-month mark, I had found my own apartment, a 1-bedroom in the same neighborhood as Alicia's. It was smaller than the guest house, but entirely mine. The day I signed the lease was one of the proudest moments of my life. Are you sure you don't want me to help with the deposit? Dad had offered. I appreciate the offer, I'd said sincerely, but I need to do this on my own. He nodded, understanding in a way he might not have before. I'm proud of you, Katie. Really proud. Moving day arrived in early autumn. Alicia, Madison, Paul, and several other friends formed a volunteer moving crew, turning what could have been a stressful day into something joyful. As we carried the last box into my new place, my phone rang. Mom calling. Should I get that? Madison asked. I took a deep breath. No, I've got it. Hello, Mom. I answered, stepping onto my small balcony for privacy. Catherine, she began formally, then softened. Katie, your father tells me today is moving day. That's right, I confirmed. We just finished bringing in the last of my things. A pause. Is it a nice place? The question seemed genuinely interested. Yes, it is. 1 bedroom, good light, walking distance to work. Another pause. I'd like to see it sometime if that would be all right with you. The request, phrased as a request, not a demand, represented significant progress. I'd like that, I said cautiously. Maybe in a couple of weeks once I'm settled. That would be fine, she agreed, sounding almost relieved. I have something for you. A housewarming gift. Nothing big, just something I thought you might like. Thank you, Mom. That's thoughtful. We spoke for a few more minutes, the conversation less strained than any we'd had since the blow-up. As I hung up, I felt a glimmer of hope that perhaps, with time and continued boundaries, we might build a healthier relationship. 6 months after the day I'd walked in on my parents packing my belongings, my life had transformed completely. My new apartment felt like home in a way no place ever had before. My career continued to flourish. I'd even started dating again on my own terms, seeing a kind architect named Ethan. The holidays approached, bringing their own challenges. For the first time, I decided to host Thanksgiving in my apartment instead of automatically going to my parents' house. Are you sure? Madison asked. Your place is great, but it's not exactly designed for big family dinners. It'll be cozy, I insisted, and important for everyone to see this as my home, not just a temporary stopping place until I come to my senses. To my surprise, Mom didn't resist. We'll bring the pumpkin pies, she offered. Your father's making his special cranberry sauce, too. When Thanksgiving arrived, I felt a strange mix of nerves and excitement. My small dining table barely fit, supplemented with folding chairs from friends. The kitchen was tiny, but I'd carefully planned a menu. When my parents arrived, Mom hovered at the threshold for a moment, taking in the space. It's lovely, Katie, she said finally, and I could tell she meant it. You've made it very much your own. The meal wasn't perfect. The turkey was slightly overdone, and we used the coffee table as a sideboard. But it was authentic in a way family gatherings had never been before. Dad told jokes, Madison brought her new boyfriend, and Mom actually asked questions about my life instead of offering unsolicited advice. As we finished dessert, Mom cleared her throat nervously. I have something to say, she announced, looking directly at me. I've been seeing a therapist at your father's suggestion. It's been enlightening. The table fell silent. This was unexpected. I'm beginning to understand that my need to control came from fear, she continued. Fear of you girls making mistakes. Fear of not being needed anymore. Fear of losing my purpose as a mother. She took a shaky breath. It doesn't excuse how I behaved, but I'm working on it. And I want to thank you, Katie, for having the courage to set boundaries that I should have respected all along. Tears sprang to my eyes as I reached across the table to squeeze her hand. Thank you for telling me that, Mom. It means a lot. The road to healing wasn't straight or simple. There were still difficult moments, times when Mom slipped into old patterns or when I reacted with ingrained defensiveness. But there was progress, real progress, built on honest communication and mutual respect. As I reflect on these past 6 months, I'm struck by how a crisis that felt like the end of something important became the beginning of something better. The day I walked in to find my parents packing my belongings wasn't just about an apartment or possessions. It was about who had the right to make decisions about my life. I learned that being controlled isn't the same as being loved. That independence isn't just about where you live, but about having the freedom to make your own choices and sometimes your own mistakes. That family relationships can evolve and heal even after profound breaches of trust. Most importantly, I discovered a strength in myself I hadn't known existed, the courage to stand firm in my own truth, even when facing the people whose approval I'd sought my entire life. The journey isn't over. Healing rarely follows a neat timeline, and old patterns can resurface in moments of stress. But I face the future with a new sense of confidence and clarity. My life is my own now, my decisions made on my terms. My home a true reflection of who I am, rather than who someone else thinks I should be. Sometimes, the most valuable thing we can lose is the need for others' approval. And sometimes, the most important boundaries aren't the ones we set with others, but the ones we set for ourselves, deciding what we will and won't accept in our lives, regardless of how much we love the people on the other side of those boundaries.